Hello, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And first of all, I guess everybody needs to breathe a sigh of relief and say Alhamdulillah, because finally, the one point that we kept on debating, since the whole exaggerated medical emergency rumors began with regards to Imran Khan's health, with regards to his heart, with regards to his blood pressure, with regards to them giving him, sleeping meds, so that 3 times a day, which is practically illegal. Seriously, the fact that they were sort of, medicating him without any actual permission or consent from his side or the side of his doctors. So, I mean, all of these put together, it was causing a huge concern. And obviously, I kept on saying that even if this was a trap laid by the government, maybe to lure everybody, or maybe it was something to divert everybody, but the fact remains that this can be used against the government or against the army. And I guess that is basically what many of the Imran Khan sympathizers were also saying. Many of the journalists who were trying to sort of, hype the medical emergency, and is because they wanted his sisters to take action. But obviously, you need to understand where his sisters stood, because his sisters have already gone through these kind of dramatic tactics by the government or the army, and they knew that this was a veritable trap. But they also knew that they had to be cautious, because it could be, again, as I said, a double-edged sword. And for them, I think they acted perfectly. They're vindicated at the end of the day. Despite the fact that the government thought that it would be a good idea to shape a narrative against his sisters, to discredit them, to slander them, because that's what this government always does. As we know, the Nawaz Sharif family is basically, or Nawaz Sharif, you can say, is a product of dictators and dictatorship. So he has been following the same old pattern of Ayub Khan, and which is slandering of women. Ayub Khan slandered Muhammad Ali Jinnah's sister, and you need not forget this, that Jinnah was not the only founder of Pakistan. If Jinnah was the founder of Pakistan, then so was his sister. I mean, the woman sacrificed everything and stood by her brother and worked with him tirelessly day and night, to help him achieve his goals. I mean, it was a whole group of people. It wasn't, but obviously, because Jinnah led the movement, we call him, the founder, and he is the founder. He's the father of the nation, and his sister is called the mother of the nation for a reason. So, but I mean, to slander the very founders of your country, to hijack, I mean, I've talked about this in so many ways. You can listen to my podcast, but seriously, it's like home invasion. You enter somebody's house and you say, "Oh, I don't like what you did to your house," and then you throw them out of the house and you start changing the interior of the house, but you don't have the capacity or the capability or the intelligence, or to make your own house. So you just go and invade their house and you hijack them, and you say that, oh, you're the owner, you're the new owner. So that's what's happened to Pakistan, and so it's still ongoing, obviously. But I mean, point is that his sisters had to be doubly cautious, and I think they dealt with it very, very wisely and with dignity. And all those people that were left to attack them, they are now put to shame. Okay, so his sisters have been vindicated, because you see, they had one answer to all of this, right? And one demand, and that was the same demand, as I said, is what we all wanted at the end of the day: proof of life, isn't it? Not even just proof of life, it's more like proof of his health. That they said that they would not believe anybody or anything until and unless they would see him with their own eyes, talk to him, listen from him, and then understand what's going on, right? And that was the right way. And so, but I think we're just glad, everybody, that finally this miracle happened, because to be honest, people could see all of this this drama brewing, and people could see that the government has never been sincere. And as I said, there was a pattern to it. There was a pattern of diversion behind every time they spread rumors about Imran Khan's medical health. But there was one thing that has been consistent behind all of these rumors, and that is that these rumors proved that some hanky panky was going on, behind the prison walls, that the wardens and that the doctors, they have been heavily involved in deliberately disrupting Imran Khan's health, deliberately causing him health issues. That was the one single message that remained consistent. When it was about his eye, again, it became clear that they deliberately induced, that vision loss. And then they were deliberately careless and reckless, and caused that damage that he lost 85% of his vision in one eye. And so that was the major concern, that these people are doing something. They're again screwing with his health. They're putting stuff in his food. They're giving him medications that they shouldn't be giving him. And they are constantly trying to, induce him into slumber. Why? Why don't they want him conscious? You understand? So these were the major concerns, right? So I think that finally, the pressure build up. Now, when you talk to some of the analysts and some of the people in the know-how and some of the people who have been very good at analyzing the situation and who have been in this field for a long time, then you kind of are able to connect the dots. Because, okay, so some people, for example, verified or confirmed or speculated, or all three, that the same British government that, as we all know, that I've been saying this for like more than, since Imran Khan since before he was ousted, I've been saying this, that the British are behind it all, and obviously America is their delegatees. But okay, so that was the consensus here, that the British, despite the fact that they were the ones behind it all, but now the pressure built up against the British government was so great, especially by the Kashmiris and the Pakistanis in London, their movement, and then the Kashmiri British MP who got elected, according to some analysts, he basically, took the opportunity to, use the street movement as leverage to force the British Parliament to make a decision, with regards to Imran Khan, So this is how then it came to be, that the speculations and the verifications and the confirmations from journalists and from analysts and from people who have been in this field for a long time, it was that, so the British finally buckled enough under pressure to then tell the Pakistani government and army that, for God's sake, you need to initiate, you need to initiate some sort of a pass-through here for everybody, get us some relief, okay? Because if the pressure builds up, then the British government will no longer be able to, to resist it. They will have to buckle under pressure. So to give everybody time, to give everybody that relief, that breathing space, they decided that they needed to release a bit of this pressure by first releasing medical records. So again, it feels that at least 70% of this whole was a facade. It was a drama where they exaggerated the whole situation, basically to build the narrative, in order to lead to this point where then they would have a good reason to release Imran Khan, you understand? Or at least, to give him that leeway, right? So that was the build up to it. And then, you come up to the point where, obviously, then his sisters stood their ground, and then they went to the Supreme Court. And according to journalists they have never seen the court jam-packed this was the first time, since since the last time that they ever saw the court allowed to be, when the court was last free, you could say, free enough to hold trials, with Imran Khan. So I think they were like, they have never seen a court so jam-packed as it was today. You know, and they were like, there was no space for somebody to even stand. It was so bad, the crowd situation. And I think that also obviously added to the pressure. And then obviously the judge, as we know, there is no free judiciary here in Pakistan. So obviously the judge had his cue. So, he listened to the trial and, the case, and he was like, yeah, okay, we need to release Imran Khan on medical grounds, in the sense that not release, but more like, he needs to be shifted to the hospital. And his own doctor must be there, and it has to be done within 48 hours, and his family must be there, and his family must first be allowed to visit him, and his family and his doctor must be present, during his shifting to the hospital, and that he must be shifted to Shifa International Hospital as per demand. And again, over there, one of his sisters was the Dr. Uzma, and, his own doctor, Dr. Faisal, that they must be there, and they have to be in the board of doctors that are supposed to, take care of his treatment and checkup. So, yeah. So it led to this. The whole, arc build up led to this, which again, adds credence to the speculations that, due to the building of pressure, due to the order from the British government, saying that, oh, we need to take an initiative to release this pressure. So the government decided to use the old ploy of releasing medical records which have no actual plausible verification or credibility, but an exaggerated amount of hype was needed, and it was put there to create a situation where it should lead to this, where they can finally, have that breathing space, and they can catch a breather, which was pretty good, I guess, in the sense that finally that much awaited, never expected, miracle happened, that finally access was granted. And as usual, the problem is that they only allowed one of his sisters to meet him, and that was Mrs. Noreen Khan. And well, as she met him, and she was so happy. All his sisters, it's such an, imagine, to see his smiling sisters is now noted down as a historic moment. Imagine. So just the fact that they could see him, that they could talk to him, even if it was just one of them, was enough. The fact that he was alive, he was healthy, he was in his right mind, contrary to, many of the exaggerated claims. So, as his sister said, he is healthy, mashallah, and that he is fine. And obviously, this is something that the sisters have talked about since their last visit, that listen, there is obviously a toll that gets taken when you're put in solitary confinement. You're not allowed to meet your family, you're not allowed to meet your lawyers, you're not allowed to talk to anybody, and your basic rights, which all he wanted was that he should be able to do his exercise, that was taken away from him. The fact that he should be able to read his books, that was taken away from him. That he should be able to read the news, that was taken away from him. So yeah, I mean, obviously it takes a toll, because he is not getting any younger, as we know. Now, another speculation here was that basically Asim Munir, despite the fact that he was under pressure, because thanks to his own actions, everything has spun out of control, especially in Kashmir. Because, okay, now this is one thing I noted, and that is at the same time when they started hyping the medical issue of Imran Khan, at that same time, the other news that I guess many people then did not talk about, save a few, was that at that very same time, firing over Kashmiri civilians suddenly increased under Asim Munir's orders. So these two things in my book happened at more or less the same time. So on one end, they released Imran Khan's medical records, which, as we still have yet to know if if any part of them, which part and how much of it is actually credible or not. And on the other side, then suddenly you get the news of increased heavy firing over civilians in Kashmir by the army and the police. So, so Asim Munir may definitely have been under pressure, but at the same time, as a few people have said, that he could actually use this, he could brush it off by citing his 3-year deal with the Nawaz Sharif, in the sense that he could just dismiss it as saying, yeah, oh, well, this was always part of the plan anyway, because the plan was that he was supposed to keep Imran Khan away from politics and silent and quiet and, withdrawn for these 3 years. And that is why he was given the extension for 3 years, in which he promised in return to keep Imran Khan away from the limelight and to keep him away from interfering and to keep him away from. And obviously, that is why he was so desperate to strike a deal every single time with Imran Khan, and which Imran Khan, obviously, as we all know, refused. And the fact that he no longer deems it necessary to strike a deal or any deal with Imran Khan is because, according to that original 3-year plan, he doesn't need to, because also he has amassed the power that he was running so desperately behind their backs and on top of their heads and in front of them to achieve, so like, for example, becoming CDC, taking control of all of the Navy and the Air Force and the ground force, and then becoming all in all, and so declaring himself Field Marshal and giving himself that medal. So you see where we're going, that now he can now start his actual 10 to 12-year dictatorship plan, right? So he does so where he stands basically, is, according to this theory, is that now it doesn't matter to him if Imran Khan is released or not, you understand, because it was all about keeping him in check for 3 years, and 3 years are up, right? And then another scenario building up is that obviously the generals who were with him, who were promoted alongside him by Bajwa, they are like, hello, we are about to get retired in October. Clear up at least most of this out of control situation here for us before we retire, because it's not like we're going to get an extension and stay here, so we need this whole thing back under control before we leave. So there is that. So there is this theory on the other side, which also obviously it resonates, because yes, indeed, originally that was everybody knows that was his deal with Nawaz Sharif. But we also know that Nawaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz were so eager to get rid of Imran Khan completely, and despite the fact that people like Shahbaz Gill have been pointing out that Asim Munir himself also wanted to get rid of Imran Khan because he has had his grudges and his petty issues with him. But, as we know, human psychology being what it is when you reach the top, when you reach where it is that you want to reach, then there are many things that no longer matter. The reason why it still matters to Nawaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz is because they still haven't achieved much. They still have not been able to reach, and they never can anyway. They know that, and that is their inferiority complex here. But then one would again argue that Asim Munir is of an even worse case scenario of inferiority complex, right? So anyway, these are all the different things that are floating that sort of coincide with each other, but at the same time contradict each other. But the point is that finally Imran Khan is free, because I had written about 7 points, when this whole thing was still happening, in which, especially that as soon as the Supreme Court gave its, verdict, my first question was that will they actually execute it, and who's going to make sure that they will execute it? And the answer that seemed to have come up was that, because it's a high stakes order, so the federal minister Dr. Tariq Fazal Chaudhry announced publicly that the government has decided to fully comply and execute the transfer on humanitarian grounds, signaling that the administration is not planning to legally contest the directive, right? So again, that was one thing. But again, the question again was, were they literally going to implement the order, to execute the order? And again, who was going to make sure? Because they could do what they did last time, and that was just run off with him in the middle of the night to the hospital and do whatever it is that they wanted to do, and none the wiser. So, well, again, to prevent that, to prevent the government from pulling that exact move, that stunt, the Supreme Court apparently, that is why the Supreme Court's order included this very specific clause designed to stop a blind transfer, and also because his sisters had also remained adamant that they were not going to accept any blind transfer. So again, that came to my next point, that okay, if the government was truly sincere, then they would somehow at least coordinate a visit, at least with his sister. And so, well, that came, that he, then finally we got the news that yes, he got to see his sister got to meet him. And actually before that, his wife and stepdaughters managed to meet him. Bushra Bibi and her daughters, they managed to have a visitation with him as well, just before his sister's visit. So he got to meet at least some part of his family, one after the other. So again, okay, so that would counter my, or that would answer my question as to sincerity. But I don't know, call me ungrateful, but the minute, the minute they actually fulfilled this, then I had another question that came up, another doubt, and that was, are they really proving their sincerity, or are they just giving candy to a baby to shut the baby up for a few minutes while they play their hidden card, which nobody can see and nobody knows? And they might do something else or something worse, or play another game. So there was that, because there was one thing that I kept on and on saying, that whether the medical report is false or not was never important. Even when it came out, that was what I kept on saying, that whether it is false or not is not important. How this can be used to leverage, because it's a double-edged sword, how it can be used to, as a leverage, that is what needs to be seen. And I'm glad to see that it somehow bore fruit. Because the thing is that, another point that I had made was that the Supreme Court basically pretended to succumb to the pressure, because as I just said earlier, to me the judge basically was already in queue. He knew what to say and what to do. So it was already decided, right, that he had to now open a trial and all, because they had built up the narrative for this point. So that is why, to me, it was pretending, and I think that it's becoming much more clearer as time goes. Now, because especially now, see, why would the Supreme Court not order immediate shifting to the hospital? Why give 48 hours? Why not 24 hours? That is another thing that I need to pick here, because I don't care about any, there are no technicalities that you can argue with me, because again, a Supreme Court order is an order, and especially since they've already decided that they need to, bring him out and take him to the hospital, then why the charade of 48 hours? What is it that they plan to do? I don't know. You understand? Because 24 hours would have been good enough for his doctor and his sister to set things up anyway, because this has been their demand for more than a year anyway. So yeah, but that was the thing. I feel that despite the fact that the Supreme Court had put that clause, that the doctor must be present, the sister must be present, and they must be part of the board of doctors who are supposed to be in charge of his treatment and everything, Imran Khan's treatment. That is, again, I still feel that, okay, so if the government is truly sincere, then they will coordinate tomorrow morning, at the latest, with Dr. Faisal Sultan and Imran Khan's legal team, to map out the logistics openly, not hidden behind closed doors. That it should be transparent. And so they should map out the logistics openly. And if they try to move him secretly under the cover of darkness without notifying his family, then it will be a clear sign that they are trying to bypass the court's intent or that they really do have something up their sleeve, and they really did give a candy, to just keep them quiet for a while and to divert them and to make them feel as if, to give them that to feign, sincerity, you know. So we need to watch out for that, I think. Not just I think anybody with a brain would know that you need to watch out for that, because most important, we know that the army is using this whole situation to, I mean, again, yeah, because the reason I'm saying most important is because this is something that people, almost everybody in the field, they kept coming back to this point that, that Asim Munir could still very well, very likely use this opportunity once again, or this situation, to force Imran Khan to withdraw from politics and delegate someone else, as they did with Nawaz Sharif, when he went to England, and then he withdrew from politics for a while, took a break and all, waiting for his comeback, which, as we can see, he did. So they might try to force Imran Khan once again, to negotiate on this deal, and in turn go out as a free man, either stay in Banigala or leave the country, but he would be a free man. And as we know, Imran Khan will never agree to it again. He will refuse, and this could again lead them to pulling him back to prison, and once again, screwing up his health deliberately, and this time maybe with possible fatal results. Now that is one of the biggest concerns here, which makes it an extremely important fact, or a factor, to put in. But obviously it does kind of contradict the other theory that Asim Munir could very well brush it off by saying that, oh well, as per plans, after 3 years, he was supposed to be released anyway, and I have done whatever I needed to do to secure my position. So it's not like his coming out is going to disrupt my plans. Not anymore. I mean, he could be in that point, but then again, he could still say that no, he can still pose a danger to my career goals. And yeah, so I really do need that negotiation from him. I need that deal, and he knows he will not get that deal. So yes, this is an important point again. So yeah, these are the things that have been going through so many of our minds, despite the fact that we're all happy that this tiny little ray of hope that Imran Khan met his sister and that he will be shifted to the hospital. But again, as I said, the kind of person that I am, I'm thinking I cannot be sure of anything until he actually goes to the hospital. As I said, the way he should go is that they should meet up with his legal team, with his sister, with his doctor. They should map out the logistics, and they should, they should openly, open and above board, this all should be done, and he should be taken to the hospital on time. Not that they should delay it till 40, even that them delaying it for, 48 hours, and then when the time is almost up, then suddenly taking him to the hospital. No. You see, even that to me would mean that they're up to something. So I don't know. And I think at this point nobody knows, because at this point there are people who are making predictions, there are people who are speculating, there are people who are very sure of their theories and everything. But the fact remains that it can turn either way, right? The tide can turn either way. So that is why actually when everybody was talking about it all, I didn't talk about it, because the thing is, I cannot talk about something that I'm not very sure about, something that I already have my suspicions about, and something that I cannot, for example, I couldn't for the life of me understand. I mean, I understood that his sisters realized that this was a double trap, and that they were being put in a situation where it's damned if I do and damned if I don't. I get that, but at the same time I felt that there was something more to it that was forcing them to be extremely cautious, because as I said, this was a very, very double-edged, very sharp sword that they could very easily used to their advantage as well. Whether it's false or not, as I said, whether false or not, it was never important. What was important was that a narrative of his medical situation was up, and it was a good opportunity for everybody to create a fuss about it and use that to get him out. I mean, if Maryam Nawaz could fabricate 11 heart attacks in a day for her father just to get him out of jail, seriously, and the medical reports that they produced, even though in their case he had access to his own doctor, so his own doctor doctored the reports and falsified his reports, and his platelets, which was somebody's dog's platelets, suddenly went down, and so he was and look at how this family, look at how mean and how low class and how inferior they are, and how petty they are, that this is how they repaid Imran Khan's objectivity and generosity towards them, where he never brutalized them, he never victimized them. In fact, if anything, they were living as if they were living in their own father's mansion. The whole family, in the sense as Maryam Nawaz and Nawaz Sharif, they were literally living in a resort, and they had access to their own chefs and doctors and everything. And yet, even when they feigned medical illness, and he was aware of it and everybody was aware of it, he's like, yeah, no, I'm still, I'm going to follow the rule of law, and I'm not going to let anything come on my head, that I did this to them or I did that to them. Let him go and get his treatment done, and this is how they repay his kindness, by not only deliberately poisoning him and deliberately, sedating him, and deliberately, drugging him and causing his vision loss, and then causing his heart condition, if it does come out to be the case, and causing his blood pressure, which I think is actually what they were saying, anxiety. I think it wasn't anxiety, it was more like his blood pressure, which they had artificially spiked again and again. So yeah, and they literally did anything and everything short of killing the man. So I mean, this in itself should tell you the caliber, the caliber of the Sharif Khandan, the Sharif family. Well, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.